Good afternoon, everyone. Stuff New Zealand, Greenland's ice loss rapidly accelerating. Reporters, you need to double check your information. Clearly showing surface mass balance. Where do you get your bad information from? One more day of no sunspots on our sun, and we're going to be breaking records. Remember when Al Gore told us 10 years ago that the Arctic would be ice-free 5 years ago? Climate models definitely not reflecting global temperatures on the ground. And you see how the IPCC and their paid scientists are living in their own climate bubble. Perhaps they're trying to distract you from a multi-thousand-year cycle because you probably wouldn't pay your taxes, especially if it involved volcanic aerosols and rapid cooling. What are the scariest things that you think about that could devastate your retirement savings today? The Chinese trade war, stock market crash, the Fed losing control of the overnight repo market, a clear sign that there's trouble ahead. Gold sitting at 6-year highs, and isn't it time to think about gold and silver as a hedge against a full-blown market crash? Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold IRA dealer, where you work directly with an owner and avoid paying absurd broker fees. Call today or request a free investment kit. The link's in the description box below. PatriotGoldGroup.com. Right on here, Drudge Report, sun quietest since 1913. Wow, that's over a 100-year cycle. I wonder what the climate was like back in 1913 to 1915. Anyway, where did all the sunspots go? As we move through, if tomorrow remains sun spotless, this will break all records for anything in the space age. And then a few days after that, we're going to be breaking records back into the full century mark again, well over 100 years. So really, let's look at 100 years ago. Far left of the chart there, which is right at 1900. On the right of the chart is where we're heading into, solar cycle 25. Notice the similarities in low solar activity. And all the icebergs in the North Atlantic at that time, cooler. But jumping back to, say, 1510 and looking at how the climate has changed. Hey, how did it warm so much after the spotless minimum? Wait a second, it warmed after the Maunder minimum too. What's happening? Looks like natural variability. And look, it warmed after the Dalton minimum too, and now they're blaming you, the people. They blamed witches in the 1600s, now they're blaming you. Always got to be a scapegoat for something natural, doesn't it? Cosmic rays increasing. Now, there'll be a 9-month delay between when we hit this very bottom of the solar minimum like we are now. We're really starting to see the uptick. So we go back 266 days. That's nearly the 9-month delay that we're looking at. And of course, right on track, up and up we go. So as we move through these next 5 to 6 months, these cosmic rays are going to increase. And guess what? There's going to be more cloud cover and heavier storms. Did you see down in Australia? They had 6 months worth of rain in a single 1 hour. Brisbane. Uncle Al, 10 years ago, told us the North Pole would be completely ice-free. This is a great day to mark in history. Forget the birthdays. Mark when Al Gore told us it would be ice-free 10 years ago in 5 years, but 5 years ago we still have ice. And oh, guess what? We still have ice today. Hey, Al, you're completely wrong. Those famous predictions were given in 2009 at COP15 in Copenhagen, where it repeated again and again. State-of-the-art computer modeling is going to tell us the future, and you individual people, you have no idea what you're talking about by looking at historical cycles, farmers' almanacs, sun cycles, and whatever. You guys are just crazy. The computers will beat you every time. Not really. You don't have all the inputs. And it's an existential threat, but China's still allowed to burn unchecked. Only you have to decrease your lifestyle, live in a square box, eat insect protein, and live on 3 watts of power per day, and then you can't even burn candles because that releases CO2. You have to sit in the dark. Great. The other half of the planet is allowed to do what they want. Now back to these state-of-the-art computer models here. The colored lines are reality on the ground, measured temperature. Those squiggly opaque lines, those are the state-of-the-art computer climate models that are mostly all wrong. I think there's one out of the 98 that's correct. And I was thinking, wow, if I was a stock trader and I was wrong 98% of the time, do you think I'd have a job? Why do we keep giving these clowns our money? Why is it stolen from us through taxes and giving to people who could toe this same narrative? Why are we not allowed another opinion to check and ask for balanced information? And if their models are wrong, stop using them. They haven't worked in how many umpteen years, decades now, and we're still hearing the same garbage again and again and again. At some point, oh wait, enter stuff New Zealand. Greenland's ice loss rapidly accelerates, hitting the high sea level projections. Stuff, I'm going to come out and say right away, how did you not back check this story? You put the links into the place where they're showing the ice charts that show an increasing ice, not decreasing, and you still put out it's decreasing twice as fast as the rest of the world, shedding more than 7 times as much ice each year. Go back to the 1990s, awesome. Do your multi-decade thing, great. But you missed the last 5 years with record ice gain on Greenland. How did you miss that? That is so amateurish. As your reporters and your writing staff and you, the editors over there, you couldn't even back check the ice sheet mass balance yourselves? You all should be fired. So since Stuff couldn't do it, why don't I bring it here for you? Because I actually went to the links and I know where Danish Meteorological Institute and Polar Portal are, so you can actually find this information, which I've linked everything in the description box below. You follow the climate models, you follow Al Gore's bad predictions, and please go take a look at what Greenland has been doing with the ice for the last 5 years. That blue line is this year. You see where that flat line where it says mass loss, anything below that is melt, anything above it is gain. And they're trying to tell you Greenland's warming twice as fast as the rest of the world and there's all this massive loss of ice. The numbers themselves from the DMI don't even show that. And that giant tick down there in August, that was a broken station that gave false readings. I'm really surprised DMI and Polar Portal haven't fixed that yet and put the real readings back in place. Maybe it'll take another year before they readjust their bad data. And I even dug out the gold standard to measure the loss. What they have is 12,000 square kilometers. And all that funnels into a certain river, and then they're measuring it. The gold standard, the 1 hour measurement now to show you the outflows of water. It's the newest, it's the best they have, and it's the go-to to prove Greenland's melting. Yet, the purple arrow that I put in there is where Greenland is melting. Do you see runaway melting at the moment? Stuff New Zealand, check your sources. The Watson River, the outflow is the gold standard to prove it. Go check it, double check it, and see how badly written that article was. This climate debate, they're living in a bubble. Truly, they're not even looking at reality on the ground, true measurements. They're still up in their hocus pocus, handout land from the IPCC to prove global warming, yet they overlook the data. Sickening is what that is. But again, I'm going to say they're trying to deflect and distract you from a heavier, more powerful, multi-thousand-year climate cycle that is ongoing and intensifying. It's going to involve more volcanic activity, and that would scare you. You notice the narrative right now of stability across the entire media network. Finance, oh, it's stable. Climate, oh, it's stable. Food production, oh, it's stable. You know what? None of those are stable. You're being deflected. I highly encourage you to take a look at what's happening. Zero hedge is a good place to stop. But everywhere you see a giant uptick or downtick, obviously they couldn't flip the southern hemisphere on top of the northern hemisphere, so it's inverted in the red. But where you see the giant ticks up or down, those are massive volcanic eruptions that cooled our planet. That white island is another signal that we're into an uptick in the southern hemisphere. And we see what's happening globally, eruption after eruption around the northern hemisphere as well. I would try to distract you too, so you continue with your stable spending and buying habits, so you don't pull your money out of the banks and disrupt the global financial system until they're ready to lock you down. And instead of giving money to the United Nations in a global carbon tax, I invite you to check out the Adapt 2030 December merch. It's not CO2, it's not you, it's the sun. Men and women's short and long sleeve tees and hoodies. Warning, this design may trigger Al Gore. The link's in the description box below, and it's another way to help support the Adapt 2030 channel.